From Tokyo, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this video finds you well and in very good spirits wherever you are in the world. And today, if you don't mind, I would like to share with you some thoughts and comments that I have with regard to this particular set. It's a brilliant set, which is called Pioneers of African American Cinema. And as some of you may know, starting from around last year, I began to discuss a number of these works found in this great set. And so today, if you don't mind, I would like to start that up again and to continue on where I last left off, and to talk in particular about a very fascinating work, or to be more specific, a collection of footage or excerpted footage that is edited together into one work that can be found, again, as I say, as part of this great set called Pioneers of African American Cinema. And that work is given the title of Reverend S.S. Jones Home Movies. This is described as being approximately 16 minutes in length, and it's also described as being from 1924 through to 1928. And this is, in essence, footage shot by this particular individual, this particular gentleman called Reverend S.S. Jones, Reverend Solomon Sir Jones, of particular areas of Oklahoma, communities in Oklahoma during the time period of the mid to late 1920s. And to be even more specific, these communities are as described by the essay written by Mary N. Elliott, which can be found on page 53 of this particular booklet as part of the set. Mary N. Elliott, in such essay, describes these communities as being all black towns or all black communities in Oklahoma during these times of the 1920s. And so what we get is this particular individual, Reverend S.S. Jones, going from township to township, from community to community, in this area, in Oklahoma, and shooting day-to-day living situations, day-to-day life, ordinary activities, ordinary slice of life stuff. So what does that mean? For example, we get, at least in the collection of excerpts that we have as part of the set, we get the gathering of families walking out of their houses, couples walking down the street and posing for the camera, some dressed in their very best, maybe we can assume maybe going to or leaving church or something of that nature. And speaking of church, we also get, in other aspects, social gatherings, church gatherings of various sorts and assortments. We also get gatherings in the town centers or the municipalities, and this also gives us the opportunity to see people standing in front of storefronts or shops, and therefore we can assume these are people who work in these stores or businesses, and or they own them, so not just stores but also shop owners and shopkeepers and the people who work there, and also the people who frequent them as customers, as visitors. So these are the day-to-day lived-in experiences of given communities during this particular time in this area of the United States, Oklahoma, as I say, during the 1920s, or to be specific, 1924 through to 1928, as captured by the camera of Reverend S.S. Jones, or Reverend Solomon Sir Jones. Now, if we go to the booklet that is included as part of this great set, as I say, on page 53, we have an essay by Mary N. Elliott, and Mary N. Elliott is described as being museum specialist at the National Museum of African American History and Culture, Smithsonian Institution. The title of the essay is Reverend Solomon Sir Jones, Capturing Progress in Black Oklahoma, 1924 to 1928. this essay, I think, is very, it's very wonderful because it provides a guide, if you will, a very well-written guide as to the reasons why this particular selection of works, the Reverend S.S. Jones home movies, why this work is included in the set as it is. And there are some really great and profound and significant reasons for that, I would suggest. Now, we first have to look at how Mary Ann Elliott describes Reverend S.S. Jones, again, in this essay. So she describes him as being someone who was, he was many things. He was apparently a minister and also a businessman, and among other things, he was also a filmmaker, as evidenced by this particular record that he left behind, the home movies, as it were. And so he also was the son of formerly enslaved parents, again, according to Mary Elliott. And so this, we must assume, informs his outlook and his perspective on the world and society at large. And again, his outlook is captured by his observation and his gaze and his look vis-a-vis the world, and through the camera that he is using and employing as he is making what ends up becoming this quote-unquote home movie footage. We also have to remember that the particular areas that we are talking about, Oklahoma, and as I say, according to Mary Ann Elliott, the all-black communities, have such a deep significance in the context of the 1920s and also Oklahoma. We have to remember too that the historical context of race relations and the tensions that existed in that particular sphere of society and living, I think is of course one of the significant aspects of a historical context and study of this particular period. And when we remember that, and if we remember, for example, the intensity and the violence and tragedy that associated a lot of this race relation and racial tensions during this particular period. We remember, for example, or students of history will no doubt remark upon, for example, the Tulsa race riots of the early 1920s. And so if we think about those sorts of examples of the historical context and historical setting to show us or to provide vivid examples, as I say, of this particular very intense situation, to put it mildly, then we look at something like Reverend S.S. Jones' home movies, and I think there is something quite marvelous and very insightful and profound and significant about the ordinariness of what is being depicted by his camera. There is something extraordinary about the ordinary, is another way to put it perhaps, in that we have these communities that are being depicted, and they are tranquil, they are serene, and they are, as I say, day-to-day ordinary slices of life. Now, that is not at all to suggest that these Reverend S.S. Jones home movies are in any way a kind of covering up or a kind of false note or a kind of a fictionalized account or an ignoring of the problem. Not at all. I'm not suggesting that at all, and I don't think Mary Ann Elliott or anyone else involved with this particular set is suggesting that at all. On the contrary, I think the point is that these communities were examples of the lived-in experience and the work ethic and the opportunities of living in this kind of serene environment and serene day-to-day life, despite the various racial tensions and adversities that were a part of the social fabric at the time. And so these home movies exist despite that particular tension. And I find, therefore, the home movies themselves to be extraordinary works. They are extraordinary, as I say, because of the fact that they are depicting ordinary slices of life. And as I say, when we remember specific, very traumatic events of history that are associated, in particular with Oklahoma and Tulsa, for example, in the early 1920s, and we think back or remember that these are depictions of communities in Oklahoma, then I think that juxtaposition becomes all the more powerful, and thus giving rise to the great reasoning, I think, for including the Reverend S.S. Jones home movies in this particular collection. And related to that, of course, is, again, what we see in the footage itself, at least what we have gathered for purposes of this Blu-ray set. And what that is various aspects of society. We have various age groups, different generations are represented, from the very young, the children that are shown in various shots, to maybe the teenagers, and then the young adults, and then the middle-aged couples and families, and then the elderly. So all walks of life are being represented and being shown here. And it's not just generational, but there are also various facets, various areas of community and society that are being represented. As I was suggesting, there are couples, there are families, there are people who seem to be maybe community leaders associated with some kind of organizational, maybe church gatherings. There are also schools being represented and shown. There are also sports events. There are also store owners, shopkeepers, people in the particular town centers, customers. And so this is a wide array of various degrees of the tapestry of the societal fabric of these communities. And so we get all walks of life, I would suggest, when we look at the world through the lens of Reverend S.S. Jones's camera. And that also becomes another example of, as I say, seeing the extraordinary in the ordinary, and that juxtaposition made even more powerful between what we see depicted, or the juxtaposition between what we understand as the very unfortunate realities of certain aspects of society and history at the time on the one hand, versus what we see here as being the representations of all walks of life and all aspects of society, living and working on a daily basis on the other. And I'm not suggesting, again, that one is trying to cover up for the other, but rather there is this powerful juxtaposition when we understand that these communities are existing, despite or notwithstanding what it is we understand as being other aspects of the historical context. This is also very significant too, because the towns that we have here are also shown as being examples, if you will, of the work ethic, the economic drive, if you will, people wanting to make a living and having the opportunities to do so. And we see also not just stores and storefronts and shops and various types of shops. We also see people and their families in their homes, in their walking in their yards. We see them and what it is they have as far as the family, but also the symbols of the family as shown through what it is they own and their property. And I think this also forms a really powerful message, again, showing us the extraordinary via the ordinary, and providing yet another profound and significant juxtaposition between that which we understand as being the historical and social harsh realities tied to race relations on the one hand, and then the idea of these communities giving opportunities to these various families and these various men and women to earn a living and to work and to really find fulfillment, whether it be economic fulfillment and satisfaction, or an emotional-based one, or a family-based one. And we see these various situations, as I say, play themselves out in this earnest and honest and intimate portrayal, as seen and shown through what is being captured by the camera of Reverend S.S. Jones and his home movies. So in those and other means, I would say that this collection is very powerful and very charming and very significant, and also very intimate. And its power lies in the way that it is quiet and it's serene, and it is gently showing us the power and the hope that lie in these various communities that Reverend S.S. Jones visited along the way in Oklahoma. And so I think for those reasons, the inclusion of this particular work, or gathering of works, under this one title, Reverend S.S. Jones's Home Movies, I think is very appropriate and well worth checking out if you have the opportunity. Once again, I can't stress enough just how wonderful a guide the booklet is, the essay by Mary Ann Elliott. She also provides, as I say, background into who Reverend S.S. Jones, Solomon Sir Jones, was, and also she points to specific aspects of why this particular work is significant and important. So I'm so happy that this work is included, and I very much hope that if you are interested, please check out this particular work, which is Reverend S.S. Jones' Home Movies. Again, it is not very long. It's only 16 minutes, 16 minutes, and it's well worth it. They are intimate, beautiful, down-to-earth, very understandable and very relatable experiences that we see depicted, and it's also a capturing of a particular moment in time in history that, as I say, is very significant in a lot of ways. But when we understand those various ways as we watch these home movies, I think we can see, again, just how beautiful and poignant and powerful these depictions really are. So this is Reverend S.S. Jones' Home Movies, and this is excerpts from 1924 to 1928. Okay, my friends, so that's it for now. And so until we meet again, please be happy and healthy and well, and please keep on watching a lot of great movies. Thank you so much, as always, for your time. I very much appreciate it, my dear friends. Stay strong, stay safe, and cheers.